The year was 1602. A new company started. It was in the Netherlands. This country is also called Holland. The company's name was long, Verenigde Oost-Indische Compagnie. We call it the VOC. This means United East India Company. It was a very special company. Many small companies joined together. These Dutch merchants had a big dream. They wanted to trade far away. Their ships would sail to Asia. Asia had many valuable goods. Spices were very important then. Things like pepper, cloves, and nutmeg. Europeans loved these spices much. They paid a lot for them. The VOC wanted this rich trade. It was a bold plan for that time. Before the VOC, trade was risky. Many small ships went out. Sometimes they did not return. Pirates were a big danger. Other European countries also competed. Portugal and Spain were strong. The Dutch needed to be stronger. So, they formed one large group. This group was the VOC. It had more money and power. The Dutch government helped the VOC. They gave it special rights. This support was very important. It made the VOC very strong. The company was not just for trade. It also represented Dutch power. In Asia, it acted like a state. This was new and different. The VOC would change history. Its story is one of riches and power. The Dutch government was called the States General. They gave the VOC a charter. A charter is a special paper. It gives official permission. This charter was given in 1602. It made the VOC unique. No other Dutch company could trade, not in the areas given to VOC. This was called a monopoly. The VOC had sole rights there. This monopoly was for a vast area. It covered the seas east of Africa. It went all the way to America, specifically east of the Cape of Good Hope and west of the Strait of Magellan. This meant all of the Indian Ocean and much of the Pacific Ocean. The VOC could trade spices and other goods from Asia. No one else from Holland could. The charter lasted for 21 years. After that, it could be renewed, and it was renewed many times. This long period of control helped. The VOC could make long-term plans. It could invest large sums of money. It built forts and trading posts. This monopoly was a huge advantage. It helped the VOC become very rich. It also made it very powerful. The monopoly was not just for trade. It also included other powers. The VOC could build fortresses. It could make treaties with local rulers. It could even wage war. This was very unusual for a company. It acted like a government. The States General allowed this. They wanted the VOC to succeed. This power shaped its future actions. The VOC's first ships sailed soon. They went to the Spice Islands. These islands are now part of Indonesia. The main goal was simple: get spices as cheaply as possible. Sell them in Europe for high prices. Nutmeg, cloves, mace, and pepper. These were like gold at that time. The VOC wanted to control this trade. This meant dealing with local sellers. The early voyages were dangerous. The journey was very long. It took many months to reach Asia. Storms could sink the ships. Diseases killed many sailors. Scurvy was a common problem. Crews faced unknown dangers. But the rewards were very high. A successful trip made huge profits. This encouraged more voyages. The VOC quickly set up trading posts. These were called factories. They were not making things. They were places to store goods, and for VOC officials to live. The first permanent post was in Banten. This was on the island of Java. Later, Batavia became the main center. Batavia is now Jakarta. These posts were key to their network. The VOC's goals grew over time. At first, it was just about trade. But soon, they wanted more control. They wanted to push out rivals. The Portuguese were already there. The English also wanted spices. The VOC fought with them. They wanted exclusive deals with rulers. This often led to conflict. The company started to change. The Banda Islands were very special. They were the only place in the world where nutmeg and mace grew. These spices were extremely valuable. The VOC wanted complete control. They did not want to share. The people of Banda traded freely. They sold to the English and others. The VOC did not like this. They wanted all the nutmeg for themselves. In 1609, a VOC fleet arrived. They tried to force a treaty. The Bandanese resisted this. Some VOC officials were killed. This made the VOC very angry. Jan Pieter Zoon Cohen became Governor General. He was a very determined man. He believed in harsh methods. He decided to conquer Banda completely. This happened in 1621. The conquest was brutal and bloody. Cohen brought a large force of soldiers. They attacked the main islands. Many Bandanese people were killed. Thousands died in the fighting, or from starvation and disease. The VOC destroyed their villages. They cut down their nutmeg trees. It was a terrible massacre. The original population was nearly wiped out. After the conquest, the VOC took over. They repopulated the islands. They used enslaved people from other areas and Dutch settlers called perkeniers. These settlers grew nutmeg for the VOC. They had to sell it at fixed prices. The VOC now had its monopoly. They controlled the world's nutmeg supply. This brought them huge profits, but it came at a horrific cost. Section 5. Cinnamon and control taking parts of Ceylon. Ceylon, now called Sri Lanka, was important. It was famous for its cinnamon. Cinnamon was another valuable spice. The Portuguese controlled Ceylon's coasts. They had been there for many years. The VOC saw an opportunity. They wanted to take the cinnamon trade. This meant fighting the Portuguese. It also meant dealing with local kings. The Kingdom of Kandy was inland. The VOC allied with the King of Kandy. The king wanted to remove the Portuguese. He saw the Dutch as helpers. The Dutch promised to help him. In return, they wanted trade rights, especially for cinnamon. Wars were fought from the 1630s. It took many years of fighting. The VOC had strong ships and soldiers. They slowly pushed the Portuguese out. By 1658, the VOC controlled coastal Ceylon. They captured key ports like Colombo and Gala. The Portuguese were driven away. But the VOC did not give all land to Kandy. They kept the coastal areas for themselves. This disappointed the Kandian king. The Dutch now controlled cinnamon. They set up strict rules for its harvest and for its sale to Europe. This was another major trade victory. The VOC's control in Ceylon was strong. They managed the cinnamon plantations. They forced local people to work. The quality of cinnamon was high. The company made good money from it. Ceylon also had other products. Elephants and areca nuts were traded. The island was a strategic location. It helped control sea routes. The VOC ruled these coastal parts for over 100 years. Section 6. Power plays in Java, the Succession Wars. Java was a very important island. It was rich and had many people. The VOC established Batavia there. Batavia became its Asian headquarters. The VOC initially focused on trade, but Java had powerful local kingdoms. The Sultanate of Mataram was dominant. The VOC had to deal with them. Sometimes they traded peacefully. Other times, there was conflict. In the late 17th and 18th centuries, Mataram faced internal problems. There were wars over who should be sultan. These were called the Javanese Succession Wars. Different princes fought for the throne. The VOC saw a chance to gain power. They decided to get involved. They would support one prince. In return, they asked for land and for trade concessions. The VOC had well-trained soldiers. They had good weapons from Europe. Their armies helped their chosen candidates. They fought alongside Javanese forces. These wars were long and complex. The VOC often changed sides. They supported whoever offered more. This increased their influence greatly. They slowly gained more territory. The Javanese rulers became weaker. Through these wars, the VOC became a ruler. They controlled large parts of Java, especially the northern coastal areas, and the Priangan highlands, rich in coffee. They did not rule directly everywhere. Sometimes local rulers stayed in place, but they had to obey the VOC. The company collected taxes. They forced farmers to grow crops, coffee, sugar, and indigo for export. Java became a major source of VOC income. Section 7. More than merchants waging war and making treaties. The VOC was not just a trading firm. Its charter gave it special powers. These powers were like those of a state. This was very unusual for a company. The States General in Holland allowed this. They wanted the VOC to be strong and to compete with other nations. So the VOC could do many things. It could negotiate treaties with rulers. These treaties were often about trade. The company could also wage war. It had its own army and navy. These forces were quite large. Soldiers were hired from Europe and also locally in Asia. The VOC fought many wars against European rivals like Portugal and against Asian kingdoms. These wars helped expand its control. Conquests like Banda and Ceylon were examples. The VOC could appoint governors. The governor-general in Batavia was key. He was like the head of a country. He had a council to help him. They made laws for VOC territories. They managed trade and administration. The VOC even had its own courts. They could punish people. This included VOC employees and locals. It was a complete system of rule. These powers made the VOC unique. It was a company acting as a state. This is sometimes called a company state. It could make its own foreign policy in Asia. It could decide on peace or war. It built forts and minted its own coins. All these actions were to protect trade and to increase profits for shareholders. But it also meant ruling over millions. The VOC became a colonial power. Section 8. Changing Asia's trade. The VOC's economic grip. The VOC had a huge impact on Asian trade. Before the VOC, trade was more open. Many different merchants traded. Asian traders played a big role. Chinese, Indian, and Arab merchants. They moved goods across the Indian Ocean. The VOC wanted to control this. They aimed to dominate key routes and the supply of valuable goods, especially spices, as we saw. The company used its power to achieve this. They forced local producers to sell only to them. This was often at low prices. They used violence if people resisted. The Banda Islands are a sad example. They also tried to block competitors. They fought wars against the English and Portuguese. They tried to stop Asian ships. If they traded in goods VOC wanted, this changed old trading patterns. The VOC also introduced new crops. Coffee was brought to Java. It became a very profitable crop. Tea was also important later. The company organized large plantations. They used forced labor systems. Local people had to grow these crops and deliver them to the VOC. This system made the VOC rich, but it often made local people poor. The VOC created a large shipping network. It connected Europe, Africa, and Asia. Goods flowed from Asia to Europe. Silver and gold flowed from Europe to Asia to pay for Asian goods. The VOC also traded within Asia. This was called the country trade. They moved goods between India, Japan, and Indonesia. For example, Indian textiles to Indonesia, Japanese silver to India. This intra-Asian trade was very profitable. Section 9. Ruling and fading, the VOC's enduring mark. The VOC ruled large areas for a long time, for nearly 200 years. It was a major power in Asia. Its governance style was focused on profit. The well-being of local people was secondary. Company officials were often corrupt. They tried to make personal fortunes. This weakened the company over time. The costs of wars were also very high. Maintaining forts and armies was expensive. In the late 18th century, things changed. Competition from other European powers grew, especially from the English East India Company. The VOC started to lose money. It fell into debt. Wars in Europe also affected it. The Netherlands was invaded by France. This disrupted VOC operations. The old business model was failing. The world was changing around the VOC. The VOC was finally dissolved. This happened on December 31st, 1799. Its debts and territories were taken over. The Dutch government took control. The VOC's possessions became Dutch colonies. This was the start of the Dutch East Indies, which later became Indonesia. So the VOC laid the foundation for Dutch colonial rule in the region. Its legacy was complex and lasting. The VOC left a deep mark on history. It showed how a company could become an empire. It pioneered global business practices, like issuing shares of stock. But its methods were often brutal. It exploited people and resources. Its rise brought wealth to the Netherlands. Its fall marked the end of an era. The story of the VOC teaches us much about trade, power, and colonialism, and the impact of greed on people.